Well, let's talk more about all of this with Republican strategist and CNN political commentator Alice Stewart. Good to see you, Alice.
Hi, Linda. Great to be with you.
So some Republicans describe this primetime address by Joe Biden as divisive. Biden's team says democratic values are not partisan. These are values that all politicians should stand up for and value. Is that a fair point?
There are two ways to look at the speech last night. From a Democratic messaging standpoint and really conveying his message to the base, he hit it out of the park. And a few of the takeaways from the speech that I thought were important were him talking about we need to work together, not as enemies, but as friends. We need to put aside past grievances and look to the future and really work to, as this speech was billed, restore the soul of our nation. But there is the other side looking at that. Many Republicans that I've spoken with and me looking at that, it was very dark. It was very divisive, as you mentioned. And he spent a great deal of the time in that speech attacking former President Trump, his supporters, and he calls them MAGA Republicans. And many Republicans, while he was explicit last night to explain exactly who he was talking with, Linda, let me be quite clear. Last night, he did do a good job of explaining exactly who he was speaking with. This comes after a week of him referring to facets of the Republican Party as semi-fascist, MAGA Republicans, extreme MAGA Republicans. So the takeaway with Republicans I've spoken with say they still view this as the president of the United States demonizing all Republicans and casting them aside and vilifying Republicans because they don't agree with his policies. And they also looked at that speech as him spending so much time vilifying his opponents instead of touting his failures. And they see the high inflation, high crime, problems with education, as well as immigration as issues that he did not want to talk about, but rather he chose to attack his opponents. There are two different ways to look at that speech, but from a Democratic messaging standpoint, he got exactly what he wanted. But at the same time, he really turned off virtually half of the country that he is there to serve.
So, Alice, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, spoke to Sky News, saying that Trump is obviously thinking about running again for the presidency in 2024. Certainly the clearest indication we've had yet. If Republicans get elected, are election deniers, as Biden believes, a threat to democracy?
Look, I believe we have free and fair elections. I believe that Joe Biden is the duly elected president. I have full faith and confidence in our election process. I am concerned, Linda, that many of those who are election deniers and don't believe that former President Trump lost the election, if they have the levers of power in the election, it is concerning to me at what they may do. But what we're seeing, Linda, is Republicans that are focusing on denying the election and focusing on far right policies and aspects of the Republican Party. They're struggling in the general election. While the issues they fought for may have been winning formulas for the primary with Republican voters, it's not sitting well with independent voters and certainly not with Democrats. So I think it's going to be very difficult if they embrace wholeheartedly the election denying philosophy, because it's not a winning formula. But I will say this also, Linda, I've served as Deputy Secretary of State at the state level overseeing elections. There are many checks and balances up and down the election process. And I have confidence that each state that runs their election can do so with the proper checks and balances in place to make sure that the next election and the ones down the road will be free and fair.
That is good to hear. And Alice, the former president did say that if he runs again and wins, he will very seriously consider pardoning those convicted over the insurrection on the Capitol. What message is he sending to the extreme right? And does he need them for a chance at re-election?
Well, he needs them, yes, but he also needs a lot of the people that he has turned off and the people that left the party when he came into office. And if he is going to throw that out there and mention that, he's not going to get any of those people outside of his base on board. That is an idiotic thing for him to even think about, let alone suggest and say out loud. Those people stormed the Capitol. They did things that were certainly against the law, and people died that day. there should be consequences for that, and they should be held accountable for that. And if anyone even thinks about pardoning them or excusing their behavior, I think that is just reprehensible. My feeling is that Donald Trump may be thinking about running. He more than likely would win the Republican nomination for the Republican side. He would never win a general election because of his divisive nature.
And just quickly, Alice, do you want to see Trump president again?
I do not. I don't want him to be our nominee, and I do not want to see him be the president again because of what the election denying, the trying to stop the certification of the election, giving a nod to what happened on January 6th, and everything since then is not where we need to be. We need to restore confidence in our election process, and we need to make sure that people are serving for all of the right reasons for this country and not for themselves. And the more we spend talking about Donald Trump and his past grievances and not about current issues that people across America care about, we're wasting time. Republicans need to focus from now until Election Day on inflation, on jobs, on the economy, on crime and immigration, and not Donald Trump.
And next time we speak, I hope to hear your thoughts on some other Republican presidential candidates. Good to have you with us, Alice Stewart. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Lynda.